All right, today we're digging into a really big book with a really big idea. It's Francis Fukuyama's The Origins of Political Order. And what it does is tackle this huge fundamental question, one that kind of explains everything you see in the headlines every single day.
So, what is that question? Well, it's this. Why are some countries peaceful and rich while others just seem stuck? Trapped in this endless loop of corruption and violence. The gap between a functioning, wealthy democracy and a failed state is just massive. It's a puzzle, right? And Fukuyama gives us this amazing historical map to try and figure it out.
Okay, so to make this whole thing easier to grasp, Fukuyama gives us a destination. He calls it Denmark. And no, he doesn't mean the actual country, with the pastries and Legos. He means Denmark as an idea, a stable, peaceful, prosperous society with very little corruption. It's the place we'd all like to live. But here's the kicker. He says you can't just copy Denmark's policies to get there. The real secret, the real map, is about building the right institutions. So what are they? Well, that map has three key parts. Fukuyama calls them the three pillars of political order. We're going to look at each one: the state, the rule of law, and accountability. And then we'll see how getting them all together is what creates what he calls the miracle of modern politics. Okay, first up, Pillar 1, the state. This is all about the concentration of power. Basically, before you can do anything else, a society has to be able to gather up power and actually use it to get things done. It's kind of hard to imagine, but before states, the world ran on family. Your loyalty was to your kin. If someone hurt your cousin, your family dealt with it. An eye for an eye. There was no police, no central government. The state changes all of that. Suddenly, there's this central, impersonal power that can raise an army, demand taxes, and enforce laws on everybody in a certain area, whether you're the king's brother or a total stranger.
And you might be surprised who got there first.
It was ancient China. We're talking way back like the 3rd century BC. The Qin dynasty, they did something absolutely revolutionary. They built what was, for all intents and purposes, a modern state. They created a professional bureaucracy, and get this, they totally sidelined the old aristocrats by taxing peasants directly. This was a game changer. For the first time, your job in the government wasn't about who your dad was. It was about passing an exam. It was about merit.
So, having a strong state is huge. It lets you build things, defend your borders, but it's also really, really dangerous if there's nothing to keep it in check. And that brings us right to Pillar 2, the rule of law. This is all about how you put limits on all that concentrated power. And right here is a super important difference we need to understand. On one side, you have rule by law. That's what China had. The law is just a tool that the emperor uses to control people. He makes the law, so he's not bound by it. But then you have something totally different, rule of law. And this is the idea that everyone, and I mean everyone, even the king, is under the law. The law is bigger than the ruler. And often, this idea came from religion, a power source outside the government. Think of ancient India, where the Brahmin priests had this religious authority that was separate from the warrior kings. It created the sense that even the most powerful ruler had to answer to a higher moral or secret law.
Okay, so we've got a powerful state, and we've got the rule of law to keep it from going wild. But there's still one massive piece of the puzzle missing, because the government can still just look out for itself, not for the people. That's where Pillar 3 comes in, accountability. Plain and simple, this is the idea that the state works for the people, not the other way around.
And let me tell you, accountability is never, ever just handed over. It has to be fought for. The story of England is the perfect example. Just look at this timeline. It's a centuries-long struggle. It starts in 1215, with a bunch of angry nobles forcing the king to sign the Magna Carta. Fast forward a few hundred years, and you have a full-on civil war, or Parliament literally goes to war with the king. And the final chapter? The Glorious Revolution in 1688, when Parliament pretty much fires the king and hires a new one, making it clear once and for all who's really in charge.
So let's pull back for a second. What's so amazing is that these three things, a strong state, the rule of law, and accountability, they didn't all grow up together. Not at all. The strong state pops up first in China. The rule of law evolves from religion in places like India and Europe, and accountability is hammered out through centuries of conflict in England. The real magic, the miracle, is figuring out how to get all three of them in the same place at the same time. Because here's the thing, having one or two of these pillars is just not enough. It doesn't work.
A strong state with no accountability? That's just a really effective dictatorship. Accountability without a strong state to actually get things done? Well, that's just chaos. You see that in a lot of failed states today. You absolutely have to have the whole package.
And Fukuyama nails this point with a great quote. He says, "A strong state without rule of law or accountability amounts to dictatorship. The more modern and institutionalized that state is, the more effective its dictatorship will be." Just think about that. China built this incredibly modern state machine 2,000 years before Europe, but without those other two pillars, it just became a tool for a very, very efficient tyranny. That's the danger we're talking about.
And that is how you finally get to Denmark. The secret isn't just checking off the boxes. Yep, got a state, got laws, got accountability. No. The secret is getting all three into this perfect, stable balance, where they all support each other. You have a state that's powerful, but it's also tied down by the law and constantly watched by the people. That balance, right there, is the true miracle of modern politics.
But, and this is a big but, that miracle is incredibly fragile. Fukuyama has a term for when it starts to fall apart. He calls it political decay. And it happens when those amazing institutions get old, stiff, and out of touch. Powerful groups, the wealthy and well-connected, they can start to capture parts of the state and use it for their own good, not for everyone's. And that delicate balance starts to erode. The scary part? No one is immune. Not even Denmark. So, why did we just take this huge trip through thousands of years of history? Because this whole framework, it isn't just an academic exercise. It's like a diagnostic kit for today. When you look at the problems in our own societies, you can use these ideas to ask the right questions. Is the problem that our state is too weak to get anything done? Is it that the rule of law is breaking down? Or is it that our governments just aren't listening to us anymore?
And that really brings us to the final big question for all of us. When you look around the world today, or even just at your own country, which one of these three pillars feels like it's in the most danger? Is it the state's ability to actually function? Is it our belief in the rule of law, the idea that no one is above it? Or is it accountability, the power of ordinary people to make their voices heard? The book doesn't give us an easy answer for today, but it gives us a powerful way to think about it. And that's maybe the most important thing. Thanks for tuning in.